Roll call, please.
Mayor Hasselbrink,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Doby,
Here.
Councilmember Bates,
Here.
Councilmember Turco,
Here.
Councilmember Nafolda.
Here.
Great. Please join me as we say the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Mayor Pro Tem Doby. Ready, begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lord, I just want to thank you. I'm very grateful for the city that we live in. I'm thankful for the first responders that we have in our city. I thank you that as I was listening to the oaths and the decrees that they were saying, I pray that those would become intrinsic to who they are, that it wouldn't just be words, but all of us that take oaths to be of service to others would remember the words that we've said and that we would walk and abide in them, that it wouldn't just be for show or for happenstance, but there would be some weight behind it. I lift up our military. I lift up all of our first responders. I thank you for those businesses that are still recovering. I thank you for the families that are still getting their footing. I thank you that we would focus on the good, that we would remember the good things, that we would not be distracted, because there's always something negative that can pull us away, but help us to find the good in each day and then take it a step further and share it with someone else. I'm just grateful this evening for everything that you've already done, and thank you in advance for those things that you will do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, we've got a couple presentations. If council would like to join me down in front. All right, the first presentation is to a resident of ours, Jeff Tomlin. Could we have him come on up? Come on up. I know it. We're just going to talk about you. It's okay. Come on over here. So on March 18th, 2021, Detective Flynn and Officer Brucky were conducting surveillance of a vehicle parked at the Best Western Hotel. When officers attempted to stop the vehicle, the suspect fled and a pursuit ensued. Officer Brucky noticed the driver threw a bag out the window, and the pursuit terminated on the 605 freeway. During the apprehension of the suspect, dispatch advised that a Good Samaritan, Jeff Tomlin, saw the bag in the gutter and agreed to hold on to it for the officers. Mr. Tomlin examined the contents of the bag and found it contained 2 pistols and some high-capacity magazines. The bag was turned over to Detective Rodriguez and eventually booked into evidence. Mr. Tomlin initially believed that bag belonged to a local high school student. After finding the pistols inside, he held on to the bag and immediately contacted the police department. Mr. Tomlin's efforts aided in taking the guns off the streets and the prosecutions of the suspect in the case. We would like to recognize Mr. Tomlin for going above and beyond the call of duty, securing evidence that would have otherwise posed a danger to our community. Thank you very much for keeping the residents of Los Alamitos safe, and you are the poster child for say something, see something. See something, say something. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would you like to say anything?
No, I
Okay.
just was shocked when I opened it up. I'm like, whoa.
Now, what you're expecting from a high school bag,
Pardon?
not what you're expecting from a high school backpack.
No, and then I put 2 and 2 together because I did see the car
Okay.
and the pursuit, and I didn't really think anything. And I'm on my bike, and I see this backpack, and then once I opened it up and saw the firearms in there, I go, whoa, wait a minute, maybe somebody tossed that out of the car.
Well, that's awesome. And we just thank you so much, because the police, there's only so many of them, and when they have residents helping them out with things like this, it definitely helps us with our law enforcement and keeping all of our residents and businesses safe.
My pleasure.
So thank you so much, and we're going to take a little picture here, okay?
Okay. Oh, man.
Thank you so much. All right, now we are going to present certificates to the La Salle Tribe Youth Rugby in recognition of winning the National Sevens Youth Rugby Championship, Boys U15 Tier 1. So La Salle Rugby Club started as La Salle High School back in 2016. They started off with a boys program, which won the Southern California High School Division in 2018, and eventually added a girls program in 2019. The pandemic hit, and just like a lot of other sports, they lost a lot of players. They took it as a year to revamp and created La Salle Tribe Youth Rugby Club in 2021 with only a U14 boys team. That team consisted of mainly new players that never played rugby before and a few seasoned players. They ended up with an undefeated season, going 10-0, and were crowned Southern California Youth Rugby U14 champions. They were here in the same room getting recognized about the same time this last year. This year they expanded to include U8 to U18 for both boys and girls and had a successful season with 130 players that participated in both 15s aside and 7s aside. The boys U15 Sevens team were selected to play for the National Youth Rugby Sevens tournament in Cleveland, Ohio last month. They were in 15 season training from March through May and worked hard to gain their spots on the Sevens team. After the selection process, the boys were put through a tough 4 weeks of training, including sacrificing Sundays and evenings to make practice. They knew to be the best at this tournament, they had to put in the hard work as they were competing against the best U15s in the nation. These included players against many academies who selected their players throughout the country. The hard work paid off as they went into day 2 of the tournament, nursing the wounds of the previous day. They had to believe in their training and trust the process to overcome adversity to make the final against the very strong USA Blue team based in North Carolina. Being down 12-7 at halftime, the tribe knew they had to dig deep and leave everything on the field. The boys were able to do that and represented the city of Los Alamitos with pride winning out eventually winners 28-12. So I'd like to bring up Coach Steve Fapusa and Coach Jay Harris. And I'm going to try and call out the boys' names. I'm sorry if I butcher your names. I'm really going to try hard. First one's easy. Caden Lowe. Is Caden here? Okay. All right. Jeremiah Patasi. Okay. Julian Lottie. You see that right? And then stand right over there with us. Maddox Thomas. Okay. Makai Harris. Congratulations. Manoa Fapusa. We're just going to go with Noah. Can I have you say your last name, just so they know?
Tuiolo Senga.
There you go. Just Noah's fine. Close enough. We have Roman Paseka. Okay. Samuel Edmiston. Okay. And we're going to go with another first name only, Severino. I know.
Talia Uli.
There you go. Teddy Tuamaga. Okay. Xander Stevens. There we go. Last, who's also not here, Kolotolu Liti. Did pretty good? Okay. All right. Here are our champions representing La Salle very, very well. And I'll hand it over to the coaches if you guys like to say something. On the spot.
No, thank you very much for having us here. The boys really appreciate the recognition. They work very hard. Apologize for the boys not being here, but most of them are in football right now, so we got as many as we could down, and we really appreciate that. And look forward to seeing these boys doing big things in the future, and they're great bunch of athletes and a great group of boys.
Thank you very much. We've gone to some rugby games before, and they're tough because you guys don't get to wear pads and everything. So congratulations, and we're looking forward to seeing what you're doing in high school and stuff next year. Great. Oh, yeah, come on in for a picture. Thank you guys so much. That's from the state senator. Okay, thank you. Yeah, just go to the podium. Yeah. What do we do with this now? All right, and our last presentation, I'd like to bring up Chief Claiborne. Center stage, buddy. And he's going to introduce our two newest police officers.
All right, please join me in welcoming Officer Stephanie Roberts. Officer, sorry, go ahead. So Officer Roberts is 34 years old and was born in the city of Bellflower. Her parents moved to Los Alamitos in '93 when she was 5 years old, and she attended Los Alamitos Elementary School, McAuliffe Middle School, and graduated from Los Alamitos High School in 2007. Since the age of 5, she played softball and was a catcher. She played on the Los Alamitos High School softball team all 4 years and went on to play softball in college at Mount San Antonio College and Abilene Christian University in Abilene, Texas. After her third year at ACU, she decided to enlist in the United States Army in 2010. On March 14, 2011, Officer Roberts left the basic combat training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Her first duty station was in Seoul, South Korea. After 12 months in South Korea, she was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. In October of 2013, Officer Roberts was honorably discharged from the United States Army. Officer Roberts has 4 children, a bachelor's degree in sports marketing and media, and a master's degree in media design. In February of 2020, she moved back to California. Officer Roberts says she has an old soul and enjoys attending vintage-style venues and browsing around antique stores. Join me in welcoming Officer Roberts. All right, next, please join me in welcoming Officer Christian Cruz. Officer Cruz is 29 years old and was born in Apple Valley and resided in Hesperia until his family relocated to Huntington Beach in 1995, where he grew up and currently resides. In high school, Officer Cruz became a police officer with the Huntington Beach Search and Rescue Explorer Post. There, he had extensive cross-training in law enforcement and firefighting and had the opportunity to participate in DUI checkpoints, 4th of July parades, and other community service events. Officer Cruz's work experience includes armed patrol and armed security in private communities and businesses, and was a security shift supervisor for a large petrochemical facility in Carson, Wilmington area. In January of 2020, he graduated from the Marine Corps Recruit Depot with the Infantry Training Battalion at Camp Pendleton, where he is currently serving. Officer Cruz has a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminology and Criminal Justice from Arizona State University and is currently enrolled in California State University, Long Beach, pursuing a master's degree in emergency management. Officer Cruz said, "I am fortunate and happy to be a part of the Los Alamitos family. I am looking forward to serving the community of Los Alamitos and getting to know everyone and having a long, fulfilling career here." Officer Cruz.
Okay, we're on to oral communications. At this time, any individual in the audience may come forward to speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Remarks are to be limited to not more than 5 minutes per speaker. Do I have any speakers? Come on up.
Good evening, Councilman and Councilwoman Hasselbrink. David Boyer, I am here tonight representing the Los Alamitos Area Chamber of Commerce, and what an honor it is to come to these council meetings. I just love Los Alamitos. I'm a resident, been here for quite some time. Welcome to Officer Roberts, Griffin, who just left, and to probably shook her hand, but she gave her diploma, and Officer Cruz. I'm really excited to see local folks on our local law enforcement, and congratulations, Chief, to your role too. I don't think I've seen you since you got sworn in, and I missed that, and I've heard that was quite a nice event. Just a couple things. The Chamber, I want to thank you personally for the efforts you're making with the concerts on Pine Street as a resident, as well as with the Chamber of Commerce. We were over there as well, and I just think anything the Chamber of Commerce can do, the board, and we were talking about it at our last board meeting, to help the city as it goes forward, as we're trying to build the business community back through this COVID time. We love the Shop Los Al and all those things that you're doing. A couple things that are happening with the Chamber. We do have some new members. We're having a ribbon cutting at Express Urgent Care coming up on July 27th. We want to make sure you're welcome to that and you're getting that information, and please join us for that. Also, the Premier Dance Arts is having a one on August 10th as well. And probably the most important thing that I'm here just to talk about is our Heroes Luncheon. It'll be our second annual Heroes Luncheon that will be on September 22nd, where we're going to honor all of our first responders and our military folks and everything. And so we would welcome you to join us with that. And with that, I just want to say thank you for all you do. And the Chamber's here, and we look forward to working with the city in any way we can to move the business interests forward. Thank you, and have a good evening. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you. Do I have anybody else? Shelley, you're smiling. You're not coming up and talking? Okay, so we'll close oral communications, and now we'll go on to council announcements. We'll start with Councilmember Nafolda.
Oh, yes, good evening. Since the last time we were here, excuse me, I attended the West Cities Police Communications Board meeting, the 4th of July presentation, which was fantastic, and I'm really enjoying the pop-up dog parks. So great job. So that's about it.
Great. Councilmember Bates.
Yes, to follow up on the very nice comments, we appreciate those from the Chamber. I'd just like to say that this last month I attended one of the best Chamber functions I think I've attended. It was put on by CIU Networks, and Art Howe was the presenter. It was wonderful on security, for personal security, for your personal security, and for small businesses. Just excellent. In fact, for those of you that have, financial accounts, having that double security, I went home and got on it right away, because just the number of hackers that are out there now, and I think law enforcement can attest to this, it is really scary. And if you're not protected personally, it can be a real disaster. For those of you who got involved in that Equifax breach, which was hundreds of thousands of individuals, people are still trying to recover from that. So just, I want to thank the Chamber for a wonderful presentation. Just a couple quick things. I attend the Orange County Division General Membership meeting. One of the things that they're emphasizing, obviously, is emergency services and trying to update a lot of the emergency procedures, especially for fires here throughout California. And a very good presentation, very well done. From the Orange County Sanitation District, just 2 items real quick. One is a report card on our beaches here in Orange County. The beaches are doing very well and staying very clean. Orange County Sanitation Districts helps contribute to that. And then for those of you, I know we've been talking about this quite a bit, but the Los Alamitos Seal Beach sewer project is coming along. They're working on the manhole covers. That project will move forward within the next couple months, and we're going to see some disruptions on Los Al Boulevard with traffic. And then lastly, for those of you that are traveling this summer, please check with the library. They have a lot of auto books available for you that you can take out at the library and use for any trips you're taking. That's it, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Churko.
Sure. I attended the Rossmore Highlands Neighborhood 4th of July Parade and had the honor of introducing our Chief of Police who led us in the Pledge of Allegiance and also led the neighborhood parade as well, which was pretty neat. So thank you for joining us. I attended the Los Al Community Foundation meeting last week. The Community Foundation is a new organization, and we're brainstorming ideas to help the community in a variety of ways, potentially, looking to help get a canine. There's a few other ways we're trying to help the community as well, and we will be participating next week in the concert series at Little Cottonwood Park, so we'll have a beer and wine booth there for that. Attended the summer concert series at Little Cottonwood this past Thursday. It was great. They had an awesome band. What was the name of the band, Emmeline? The Beatles. It was a Beatles cover band, and it was really neat. My kids didn't think the Beatles music was quite as cool as I thought it was.
Britain's finest.
Okay, Britain's finest. So that was great, and participated, or not participated, but took advantage of the UWS trash disposal event on Saturday, and some of my neighbors did as well. From what I could tell, it went really smoothly. It's a great opportunity to get rid of some junk and e-waste as well. I got rid of some old computers, and there was a lot of people in line, so it seems like it was a successful event. So thanks to the UWS and staff for that as well. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobie.
All right. Well, Councilmember Nafolda and I actually attended our very first, it's a school district and city collaboration where we are just trying to get these entities on the same page. I'm really excited about it because I think that it's important that our city and our school district work together. So we attended the first in a series of meetings. And I also attended the Mosquito Awareness Week at the Discovery Cube, and I meant to bring the book. It's called Grandma Mosquito. I will bring it next time because I'm going to read it to y'all because the information is so simple. Like, we tell people about mosquitoes and no one wants to listen until, oh my God, I'm being eaten alive. Well, friend, it was one mosquito that did that to you. It is not an army. It's just one mad mama eating your ankles up. But I'll read the book to you. You guys will understand it better. Then I went to Coffee with a Cop, and I got my lovely Los Al decal. That's part of their Pink Patch project. I'm still waiting on a larger one. I hear that may or may not happen. But I'm also excited that our new chief is coming in, and he is making things happen for our city. That makes my heart happy. And my regular mosquito and vector meetings. And then I also went to a dedication for St. Isidore Plaza. They are now officially a historical site. So they don't have to worry about their land being taken from them or not being able to get access to certain fundings. And it was really informative. I didn't realize it was one of the first buildings, and the people that put it together or they built it, they were some of the first residents of Los Alamitos. So that was very fascinating. And then last but not least, the 4th of July Spectacular. That is the appropriate name for it. The show was so wonderful. And I found myself feeling very proud when, they play that song, I'm proud to be I'm not gonna sing it to y'all, but where they're singing, I'm proud to be an American, or at least I know I'm free. Say what you'd like, but I wouldn't wanna be anywhere else. And I really felt that during this particular spectacular that had over 3,000 people?
We're estimating about 7,500.
Oh, look at that. Well, all the numbers run together after a while, but that's what I've been up to.
All right. Councilmember Bates, you had one more comment?
Sure. One more comment, and this is just to follow up with what Mark said. We had a couple people from our neighborhood, including my wife, who showed up at the trash disposal with Universal and then the city, and she couldn't go out of her way but to say how well it was organized, how well it was run, and how courteous all the staff were. So I just like to pass on that compliment to everybody.
Great, thank you. So for me, we did the 4th of July, cruised through a couple of the neighborhood parades, got to ride on a really cool Corvette in Suburbia, which was all fun. And the chief was there with me, so he was busy on the 4th, but he made it all the way around. And I was on my bike and I cruised some of the neighborhoods and stuff, and it was just a slice out of Americana. It was just a really cool, people were outside, they were enjoying each other's company and neighbors and everything. And then the show itself was just amazing. And, when I was talking on stage, I told everybody out there, and I said, very few people get to sit on an active military base where they deploy and train thousands of soldiers every year, and we're sitting on the runway listening to the Army band, watching fireworks go off on the 4th of July. That's a really small percentage of population that get to do that, and it's just, I hope it never ends. I think it's just awesome. It's so apropos for what we're about and everything, and I agree with just the pride of being an American. All the politics went out the window for just a few minutes, and it was really neat. In talking with the base management there that night, they've asked us to explore possibly doing the fireworks show on July 3rd. And the reason being is we all saw the soldiers there. They were working, so they weren't at home with their families celebrating the 4th of July. And so they have asked if we could just explore that, maybe for future. They weren't demanding it, but just asked us to look at it, kind of that human factor of you want to be home with your family on the 4th of July. And with that, I'd also like to bring up possibly, if we do something like that on the 3rd, possibly exploring bringing back Safe and Sane fireworks for the 4th of July, so families still get their sparklers and Piccolo Petes and different things like that, just for council to kind of listen to varying opinions and research on it, and what the police think about it, and what the fire department thinks about it, and go from there. So if we could, in the next couple months, maybe start some conversations about that, that would be great. And then tonight, I would like to close in memory of Stella De Leon. She passed away on this last Friday, July 15th, at the age of 91. She has been a resident of Los Alamitos since she was 16 years old, which makes her a 75-year resident. Her and her husband called the Carrier Road neighborhood their home. They raised 3 boys, and she died peacefully at home. Funeral services are to be pending, but I definitely wanted to close in her honor, because she is tried and true Los Al. So with that, City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple quick comments. First, I wanted to compliment the chief on the 2 new hires. While these are outstanding officers, and I'm sure that they will serve the city well, it also is another move towards reaching that goal of full complement, which again, Chief, you and your command staff, I commend you for your continued efforts to get us there. Also, I'd actually like to ask Director Noda if she might be able to go through some of the remaining events that we have during the summer.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. We just wrapped up our 4 concerts on Pine Street, and now we are moving to the parks, and we are alternating between Little Cottonwood Park and Orville Lewis Park for our Memorial Care Miller Children's and Women's Hospital Long Beach. I've got that memorized. Summer concert series. And July 21st, we have Brad Johnson and the Time Killing Band, which is a country music band. And then we go to Orville Lewis with OC3 Band, and the Orville Lewis bands are sponsored by Randy Hill, Realtor. Then we have August 4th back at Cottonwood Park with Ortega Highway Band. It's a Southern rock. August 11th, Familiar Faces, which is a variety cover band. And then we also still have our Parks Make Life Better activities. So I'd like to refer everybody to the summer brochure on the back cover. It lists all of our activities going on. We've got our pop-up dog park, couple park pop-up events, free pickup sports, mini family day prior to concerts in the park. And then I'd like to remind everybody to register for the UWS Race Los Al, which is coming up quickly in September. Thank you.
And that's all I have, Mayor.
Great, thank you. All right, now we're on to warrants. Does anybody have any questions on warrants?
Yes, Mayor, just a few brief questions. Starting on page 1, if we could ask the city manager to just explain that Cardno, the 2 charges there for the $7,000.
Yes, sir. That actually is an geotechnical firm that we've retained in order to do some site evaluation, basically looking into contamination at different sites in the city.
Got it. Thank you. On page 2, EPLIS Technology, American Rescue. Could you please explain that 52,000?
Yes, sir. As the council's aware, we've been undertaking a significant stride with regards to our technical infrastructure. This is actually a charge that will actually allow us to bring in new servers and new switches to actually be able to run all of the new technology that we've actually put in place here in the last couple of years. This is a critical infrastructure step forward. Without this, the computers, the telecommunications, everything that we run will simply not work. And our technology had reached end of life. So this actually will serve us well into the future.
Last comment, thank you. Last comment on pages 8 and 9. Would you mind in the future looking at that and see if there are possible ways that can be combined? I think a lot of those events where you're talking about 72 cents and 78 cents and could possibly be combined into one listing?
Of course, sir. Actually, we're going to be looking at our entire warrant register and trying to find different ways to consolidate them down into single units so that not only they're easier to understand, but it gives a better picture, I think, to the public at large without listing out, like you said, 31 cents here, $1.04 here, such, yes.
Thank you.
Is that- Okay, anybody else have any comments or questions?
I'll make a motion.
Second, roll call, please.
Mayor Hasselbrink,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Doby,
Aye.
Councilmember Bates,
Aye.
Councilmember Turco,
Aye.
Councilmember Nafolda.
Aye.
Motion passes. On to the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon one motion unless a council member requests separate action on a specific item. Does anybody want to pull any of the items?
C, F, and G, Madam Mayor.
See. Anybody else want to pull anything? Okay, let's go ahead and go through. Is it just clarifications and questions?
Most of it,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
perfect. Oh, say, so C.
C, can we just verify, because I saw that Teamsters attachment to this item, and it's the Economic Development Supervisor, and I just want to verify that he is in fact part of management and not part of one of the bargaining units per se.
Yes, sir. This position will fall under the unrepresented classified group that is not represented by one of the unions.
Thank you.
And then F.
Could we talk in F, Mr. City Manager, just explain to us a little bit why, and I know you've been bringing these to us slowly and as they move forward, but why this couldn't have been handled with the initial approval for OCTA when it came to us in June?
Yes, sir. So the OCTA has added an additional requirement this year that all of the submittals that actually come before the city council also include a provision where we look at their new online submittal form. It's called, I believe, called Grant Funder. And during the original submittal, we did not include that. I'm sorry, it's actually called OC Fund Tracker. It's simply just another format for them to have this information in, and I believe it makes reporting easier to the state. At the time, we were unaware that it was a requirement of submittal. However, we obviously are within the timeline, so that is why we brought it back to you for formal action, just so that it was uniform across the board without another piece of paper coming from myself signing that we actually had submitted it this way as well.
That wasn't something you, in essence, had the authority to do?
That is correct, sir.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay. And then item G.
G, yes, questions on item G. Could, you know, the contingency is so large there. Could you please explain to the community kind of what the thinking is there and what the approach is to that?
Of course, sir. So first, I think it's important to remember that engineer estimated bids, they do have a lot of flexibility built into them. During this time, especially with inflation where it is and knowing our supply chain issues, we felt that it was important to actually add in that extra amount of money in order to be able to ensure that the project was done on time and under budget. We also, it's important to note that the bid price of $262,000 $100,000 does not include design, construction management, or inspection, which is where a bulk of that additional $200K will go to. There is also a contingency that's built into there. The finance team, along with Director Noda with Development Services, is going to be looking for ways to actually go in and be able to enumerate these different costs going forward, but in doing so, you create a small issue by allowing contractors to know exactly how much you have in contingency. Right. And by putting that money out in play, instantly you start to receive change orders and such. And so while we look for a way to better articulate what exactly the true cost is, I just want the council to be aware of these struggles or the difficulties in actually doing that accurately and ensuring that the city still gets the best deal.
Madam Mayor, as we run over the basic amount, will we get some reports back as to which additional funds have been used?
Of course,
which
sir.
Additional additions?
Definitely during the closeout of the project, you definitely will get an itemized list, but also I can provide additional reports as needed as we start to expend some of those funds.
Extra funds, great, thank
Okay,
you.
is that good? Okay, so those are all the questions. So can I get a motion for the consent
I'll move
calendar?
I'll
Okay.
second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. On to the discussion item, designation of voting delegation and alternate for the League of California Cities 2022 Annual Conference and Expo, which is in September at the Long Beach Convention Center. Who's taking that over? Go for it.
So this is the annual appointment for the, oops, sorry, my brain stopped working for a minute, for the annual business meeting. Typically, it is the mayor and the mayor pro tem that are appointed as the delegate and the alternate, but it is completely up to council at this time. This is just for the appointment of the voting. It doesn't cover any of the registration costs, which are all, the costs are included in the budget, though.
Okay. Is there anybody that's interested in?
Madam Mayor, I need to be there as a past president and to make the award, the annual service award. So I will be there, but I would prefer if you and the mayor pro tem want to be the designated members. That's, I think, very good. And I know there's always a lot of good programs that are available at that league annual conference. So I would encourage, in fact,
Right.
I'll move that the mayor and mayor pro tem be our designated representatives if both of you are willing to do
Are you
that.
available for that time? Yeah? Okay.
Also give it to me.
Okay, so motion for myself and Mayor Pro Tem Doby to be the delegate and alternating delegate.
I'll say.
Yes.
And I would just say that hopefully, and I don't know if it'll come up, but I've been working with the city manager because a big issue on how the sales tax is distributed around the state, some of these big box stores who have facilities out in the Inland Empire are collecting a large portion of the sales tax should be coming back. And the League of Cities has been working on a project with the city managers to try to come up with something that the legislature can approve, approve for the governor's signature to make a more fair distribution of that money. So I'm hoping that'll come before you and we can discuss it, before that meeting. But the cities that have these big box stores and are doing fine are doing a very effective job of delaying any kind of action. And they've been doing it for about the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And they put it back now, so I'm not sure the city manager's report will be coming forward in time, but hopefully it will, and something we need to keep working on, just so we make sure our city and other cities get their fair share of sales tax. I mean, just go out in your neighborhood and see how much utilization all these companies, whether it's Prime or UPS, et cetera, are using our streets and tearing up our streets, and we're not getting fairly compensated for it. So
Right.
anyhow, I think that's going to be one of the key issues, just
Okay.
to share with you.
Perfect. Okay, so I have a motion, and Jordan, you seconded it?
second, yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then next, on to our public hearing. Ordinance number 2022-04, AB 481, military equipment use policy. And I'll go over to the chief.
All right. Hello, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. For those in attendance or watching online that do not know me, I am Michael Claiborne, the Chief of Police for the Los Alamitos Police Department. I am here to present on Assembly Bill 41 and to request the acceptance of an ordinance to be added to the Los Alamitos Municipal Code establishing rules for the Los Alamitos Police Department's acquisition and use of equipment that has been defined as military equipment under AB 481. On September 30th of 2021, Governor Newsom signed Assembly Bill 481. The bill was codified and took effect on January 1st of 2022. The bill identifies commonly used police equipment as military equipment. The purpose of AB 481 is to increase transparency, oversight for the acquisition and use of police equipment, and to provide safeguards to protect the public's welfare, safety, liberties, and civil rights. The new legislation requires every municipal law enforcement agency to obtain approval from their governing body, which in our case is the City Council, prior to taking certain actions related to the funding, acquisition, and/or use of these pieces of equipment as defined. Law enforcement agencies must obtain approval from the governing body by an ordinance adopting the military equipment use policy. AB 481 also requires approval for the continued use of equipment and tools identified as military equipment acquired prior to January 1st of 2022. The definition of military equipment within AB 481 encompasses some equipment and tools currently being used by our department and the West County SWAT team to protect our community. We are seeking City Council approval to continue using tools and equipment as defined by AB 481, which was acquired prior to January 1st of 2022. We are also seeking approval to obtain additional equipment in the future. All current and future equipment will adhere to requirements under this new ordinance. AB 41 also requires law enforcement agencies to develop a policy that lists all equipment falling under the bill's definition of military equipment. The policy must include the current quantity of each item as well as the intended use, required training, fiscal impact, and other topics of interest to the community. The Los Alamitos Police Department posted a draft military equipment policy on the department's website as required by AB 41. This policy would also be approved by the adoption of the local ordinance. Additionally, pursuant to AB 41, the department will produce a report on its tools and equipment identified as military equipment under AB 41 and report back within 1 year of the approval and annually thereafter. The report will be publicly available on our website and shall include the following: a summary of how the equipment was used and the purpose of its use, a summary of any complaints or concerns received concerning the equipment, the results of any internal audits or violations of the equipment use policy and any actions taken in response, the total annual cost for each type of military equipment to include training, transportation, maintenance, storage, upkeep, and any other ongoing costs, the quantity possessed for each type of equipment, if the department intends to acquire additional equipment in the next year, and the quantity sought. Within 30 days of submitting and publicly releasing an annual military equipment report pursuant to this section, the law enforcement agency shall hold at least one well-publicized and conveniently located community engagement meeting at which the general public may discuss and ask questions regarding the annual military equipment report and the law enforcement agency's funding, acquisition, or use of military equipment. Examples of equipment that are listed under AB 481 are mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, also known as an MRAP, tracked armored vehicles, firearms and ammunition 50 caliber or greater, and microwave weapons. None of these pieces of equipment are possessed or deployed by the Los Alamitos Police Department, nor do we plan on acquiring any of these in the future. Examples of equipment that we do have are, within the police department, is rifles, shotguns, and less lethal beanbag shotguns. As part of the West County SWAT team, we have the ability to be used unmanned, remotely piloted, powered aerial or ground vehicles. Now, this category has an item of a drone, which is not currently in your draft policy, but it will be in the next reading of the policy that we will have for you. The other items are an armored vehicle, mobile command post, light sound diversionary devices, chemical agent and smoke canister, explosive breaching tools, long-range acoustic device known as LRAD, and a robot. It should be noted that the majority of this equipment is currently utilized by our West County Special Weapons and Tactics Team, also known as the SWAT team, and deployed during SWAT callouts and other critical incident calls for service. These items are intended to safely apprehend offenders who pose a danger to the community and provide the ability to rescue members of the public or first responders from dangerous environments. By continuing to have access to each of the resources currently available, the men and women of the Los Alamitos Police Department will continue to have a variety of tools and equipment to help bring a critical incident to a safe resolution while ensuring the safety of the public, the officers, and the offenders involved. All corresponding policies and procedures would remain in effect, and staff would be required to implement a tracking system for equipment use in preparation for AB 481's annual report I mentioned earlier. Without the approval of the ordinance, the Los Alamitos Police Department would be forced to cease the use of the equipment in our inventory that has been identified under AB 481. Not only would this require the change of current tactics, policies, and procedures, but it would significantly impact our level of service to our community. Additionally, it would no longer allow us to provide or receive mutual aid from any other police department that possesses items listed under AB 481. I understand and appreciate the sensitivity behind this topic, but I would like to highlight some of the great work the men and women of the Los Alamitos Police Department provide, with an emphasis on community-oriented policing while we continue to provide quality service. With that, the Los Alamitos Police Department is seeking council's approval to continue using our current equipment that was acquired prior to January 1st of 2022, as defined by AB 481, and we are also seeking approval to obtain additional equipment in the future. All current and future equipment will adhere to requirements of this ordinance. The City Council may deny the Los Alamitos Police Department's proposed ordinance and policies, which would preclude the purchase, acquisition, and use of tools and equipment already safely being deployed and in use as defined by AB 41. Loss of these tools and equipment would significantly hinder the police department's ability to safely and effectively respond to emergency situations and result in greater risk of harm to members of the community and the public safety during these events. Thank you, and that concludes my presentation. I'm ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. With this being a public hearing, we do need to open it up for public comment. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for questions and comments. Councilmember Bates.
Chief, obviously, we need to approve this item tonight. I have no doubts of that. Can you tell us where is the equipment for the West Orange County SWAT team stored, and how are decisions made in terms of what is included in that facility? And then how are the costs shared? And does that also come back to the City Council?
Well, for that, I have brought in our qualified expert to help us answer a few of those questions.
Okay.
Sergeant Gallagher.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bates. In order to answer some of your questions, as the chief said, I'm Sergeant Gallagher, been a member of the West Orange County SWAT team for 10 years, and I'm currently serving as the assistant team leader of our entry team. As far as regards to the position or housing of the equipment, a lot of that depends on the type of equipment that we're speaking of because of it being a shared resource. Some of the larger equipment that's typically used or deployed during these call-outs are things like the armored vehicle, flashbangs, the kinetic energy breaching devices to get into situations where we can conduct officer rescue or citizen rescues. All of those are typically housed at the Westminster Police Department, where they have a secure area to hold this stuff in compliance with the law for a lot of the things such as the flashbangs or smoke grenades.
Uh-huh. And how are the costs determined, or how are the items acquired for that when you need it, and how are the costs shared among the cities? And is that something then would come on our line item agenda for approval at some point, or how is that handled?
So as far as, excuse me, the cost sharing goes, I'd have to defer that. That's a little bit above my pay grade. But as far as the deployment of this stuff, typically, once a call out is reached or a decision between all the SWAT commanders of the 5 participating agencies have agreed that the situation rises to the event of having to deploy a SWAT team, all of the equipment would typically be brought out to the scene. That way, if there is a need to use any of that equipment, there is no need to go back to where it is housed, and it can be rapidly deployed from typically either a mobile command post or from within our armored vehicle.
So obviously, I think, I'll speak for myself, my major concern with having adequate equipment is defending our schools. I mean, I think if we're going to have an incident, that's where we're going to need to have all the equipment available here locally to respond very quickly. I mean, we've seen the results now nationally of a slow response and people dying. So I guess my question is, do we currently have, with our listing of available equipment necessary to have a very timely response if we have an incident in any of our schools?
So we recently have addressed that issue with what's called the Urban Area Security Initiative, which is a UASI grant, which purchases training, equipment, and exercises that are anti-terrorism related. We recently, Sergeant Gallagher and Sergeant Lee went to them to do a presentation about what we believe is a gap in the grant's ability to provide protections that we need on the west side of Orange County. And we're hopefully optimistic to find some news in August where they will hopefully approve to implement some more equipment here on the west side of the county that would help us address that very issue.
Great.
Yeah, all paid for by the grant, by the way.
That would be excellent. And as indicated here, if you do need new equipment, certainly it's something that the council would love to consider. And I'm assuming then it would come on, if you need it, would come on our agenda as a funding requisition that we could then look at, approve, and ask questions regarding.
Assuming that it is not something funded by a grant, correct?
Great. But I'm guessing even the grant somehow ahead of time would need to come back for some kind of approval?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Chief. I was just going to say that given the provisions within AB 481, anything that's designated as military equipment is going to have to come before the council as a pro forma report. So yes, you will have the opportunity to weigh in on those issues and the items that are being purchased.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I had a question. Just because of the way my mind works. Is this information public knowledge now?
It is. It's a requirement by the state so that we have to release this information, ma'am.
And it has been.
Correct.
So you're just drilling down and making
We're
it.
about to release the equipment that we use or have access to use here in the city of Los Alamitos. Every municipality is responsible for doing the same in their own.
Okay. Because my mind is just like, why do I want the public to know?
That's
I just feel like there's some things, they require more of an explanation than you can give with a 2-minute clip. So I'm always on the fence about why do you need to know that? Like, part of me understands why you need to know that, but then there's a part of me that, if all hell breaks loose, why did you need to know that?
This is
So
all
if you
part-
say they already know, okay,
State
Yes.
mandate.
State mandate for transparency.
fair enough.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance.
Second.
Okay, hold on real quick. I just had one question. How is the West County CERT, is that going to be listed as that agency? Or,
West County CERT,
I'm sorry, not the West County CERT.
West County SWAT,
Yeah,
listed as what
well,
agency, ma'am?
all the military equipment, that's not under going to be Los Alamitos or Westminster. How is that going to be
So
listed?
that's a nuance that every city that has access to those pieces of equipment, all of us have to list that equipment. Otherwise, West County SWAT would not be able to utilize that equipment within our city.
Okay,
So every city that West County SWAT provides services to must list all of that available equipment.
so our one Bearcat turns into 3.
Correct.
Okay, now we're overqualified. Good.
I'm with it.
Okay, so first I need, city attorney to read.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Before the City Council for consideration this evening is ordinance number 2022-04 entitled, An Uncodified Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Alamitos, California, adopting and approving Los Alamitos Police Department Policy Number 709, Military Equipment Use Policy, in compliance with California Assembly Bill Number 481.
Now can I have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the ordinance.
Second.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, now we move into closed session, and I'll have the city attorney lead us into closed session.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The City Council will now adjourn into closed session to discuss items 13A and B as listed on this evening's agenda.
Chief.
There we go.
You gotta redo it. Thank you. The City Council of Los Alamitos has returned from closed session with no reportable action. With that, I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you, and we'd like to adjourn this meeting in memory of Stella De Leon, and see you next month.